Lots of love. Join me in welcoming Mrs. Chinyere Eyoh. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Comfort. Thank you so much. And my sis, Deborah, thank you so much. I was like, are you sure I shouldn't just allow her continue? Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
This
Yeah.
issues, sexual violence against children, is really, really close to my heart. And a lot of people really do not understand how damaging it can be. I remember before I started doing this work full time, I was doing a 9 to 5, and I was always taking excuses from my boss. I'm attending this meeting and all of that. And I wrote a book where I chronicled my experience as a survivor of sexual violence. And I was always talking about sexual violence, protecting children. And he was like, there are those who are abused. If they're abused now, they should get over it. And I'm like, this guy does not understand. It's not as easy as that, as much as I try to tell myself and I show that, yes, I have healed from the experiences I went through. There are times you just have flashbacks. There are times, you just remember. There are times you wonder how differently could my life had been if I had not, experienced sexual violence. But then in all things, we thank God because it is that experience that drove me to start up this organization. And I'm really grateful for the number of children that we have been able to help, the number of children we've been able to support, we've been able to rescue. At the time when I went through what I was going through, I didn't have this conversation it was not one to have publicly. And so I didn't have any form of support system around me. Every support I got, I had to look for myself. I had to be deliberate and intentional. There was that go-getterness, go-getter spirit in me that, I won't be another statistic. I must overcome this. And I'm really grateful, to have come this far, and thankful for people like Mrs. Deborah Guana who have supported the work, that we have done. I like the question that Comfort asked about some of the signs that may not be so visible. And the truth of the matter is that the physical signs, the STDs, the rashes, the pain, the physical pain you experience, the redness, and even pregnancy. Um, yes, it is there, but it's we don't have, how do I put this now? The majority of children who are sexually abused, a lot of them will really not have those physical signs that you can see, you know, to determine that abuse has taken place. And that's why I liked what Mrs. Guana said about being present, watching for the signs, being available for your child. I know how difficult and stressful Nigeria can be, but you have to make time. And while she was speaking, a thought just occurred to me. If you don't know what is normal with your child, you will not know when there is an abnormality. So if you do not know the normal actions and attitudes that your child, the preferences that your child will desire in a certain situation, how will you know when those issues change? So we need to be deliberate and intentional about time that we spend, about letting them know that they are number one, about letting them know that we are present and we are available for them. And so prevention is key. Next month, myself and Mrs. Guana, if she will give us her time, we'll be coming back again to talk to us about how do you heal, how do we help children who have already been abused? How do we help adults who are 40 something years, 50 something, 30, 20, and they are still suffering from the trauma that they experienced when they were children at 5, 6, 7, 13, and all of that. We'll be doing all of that next week. But I wanted her to speak first by talking to us about the trauma and the effect that it has on children as motivation to get us to prevent. Because as we will often say, prevention is actually better than cure. It's better that you why we are bringing this to us. I'd like to start with three cases, not the most shocking, but just three, stick to general true life stories of issues that we have handled, in SOA initiatives to just give us some form of context and show us the kind of work that we are doing. I try to avoid any use of names, here, just so that we maintain the confidentiality of the survivors that are involved. So, first we have a 10-year-old girl who reported to us that her father had repeatedly abused her and even threatened to kill both herself and her mother if she reported the abuse to anybody. We had gone to this girl's school, and after, usually when we go to school to create awareness and all of that, sometimes the children will wait behind for questions and all of that. She waited behind and told us all of that. And this case I'm telling you about took several years because the mother was in denial. She didn't know what to do. She didn't want to handle it. She wanted to she wanted to behave as though if I keep quiet about it, this thing will go away. And it was just so messy. The second case, a 5-year-old girl who disclosed that her mother's younger brother had continually raped her. And when she summoned up the courage and told her mother about this, the mother immediately went into denial, told her she was lying, that if at all anything was going on, it was it was the father's brother who was also living in the house. So, there was a lot of shifting and all, and this 5-year-old girl was just caught in the middle. The third case, a 13-year-old girl whose mother complained that she constantly slept with men who showed the slightest interest in her. And during counseling sessions, so in other words, this girl, was unfortunately sleeping around. She didn't know how to control her sexual urges. She was, when I say practically sleeping around with, and the mother couldn't understand what exactly is going on with my child. At that time, our office used to be in a hospital. And so this mother had come to treat the daughter. Unfortunately, the daughter had gotten HIV, and she was coming to collect antiretroviral for her daughter. And she saw us and said, okay, well, so if you are counselors, you work with teenagers and all that, please help me talk to my daughter. Despite what it is she's dealing with, she's still sleeping around and putting others at risk. And it was in that counseling session when she opened up to me, told me that she had been abused by a close relative for a number of years from the age of 6, and she had internalized this, and it had become, like Mrs. Guana said, a maladaptive behavior to deal with the trauma, that she had been with. So these are just a few of the issues that we have dealt with, and I wouldn't pray this on any one of us. So what can we do to ensure that our children are not abused, our children are not targeted? I'm going to take us through 5 easy tips on what we can do as parents or lovers of children, or just arm yourself with information that you can share with other parents around you. Is my slide being shared? Okay, let me see if I can share from here. Comfort, I had sent it. Let me see. Okay.
I've been sharing since, so I thought it was sharing.
Oh, or am I the one that's not seeing it? Please, can I have confirmation? Were we seeing the what? Because I'm sharing now, so I really don't know.
Oh, it wasn't
Okay, Monsieur,
showing.
you can proceed.
Just kept showing.
Okay then. Okay, so I'll just go ahead. I was scared. I didn't want a situation where PHCN will happen to me and or network or something. So, okay, so I'm going to be sharing us 5 quick tips on what we can do. Now, the first thing we can do for prevention is, in order to prevent an issue, you need to understand that thing so you will recognize it when it shows up. So what exactly is child sexual abuse? First, is that child sexual abuse is any sexual activity between an adult and a child. It is also any sexual activity which can happen between a child and a teenager or two children in the situation where one of the persons, one of the children, if there are two children involved, you know, or two teenagers involved, where one person has an edge over the other. We normally call it power differentials. You see, sexual violence, generally, whether it's about adults or children, it's about power. It is where somebody else who has power, the power could be physical, power could be status, power could be, you have something, you have an advantage over the other. For children, it is most often, adult child or teenager child or two children that one is developmentally older. They may be the same age, but one is, when you talk about those children that are sharper, as if, this one is a man in a child's body. So yes, so sexual activity between two people where one has some advantage over the other. Sexual abuse of children involves force, involves coercion, involves persuading a minor to engage in sexual activity. Now, this sexual act is prevalent, and I'm sure we already know that. In the early days, there was this silence around it where it was happening and a lot of people were not talking about it. But I thank God that right now the awareness is out there. The only statistic we have came out in 2014 where it says that out of every 4 girls that you see, one of them will be sexually abused before they are 18 years old. And out of every 10 boys that you see, one out of those 10 of the boys will have been sexually abused. Now, mind you, that was 2014. So you can imagine with the proliferation of the internet, with the situation in Nigeria where, parents are out there, they need to make ends meet and all of that. And children have less and less, attention and the support that they have. So they are living in a house with lots of caregivers, if they are caregivers, or they're taking care of themselves. And in that state, they are vulnerable. Sexual abuse is complicated because of layers of guilt and shame. Every other form of abuse will naturally place the blame on the person who does the violation. If it's physical abuse, why did you beat her? Why did you do this? If it is emotional abuse, why did you talk like this and all of that? If it's verbal abuse, don't talk like that. Why are you speaking like that? But in most times, when it comes to sexual abuse, the blame or questions will usually be asked to the person, even children who are abused. Where did you go? Where did it happen? Why didn't you go with somebody? Why were you wearing that dress? Now, so many times it almost always seems as if by asking those questions, the perpetrator is excused for the things that they did to that child. And so a child is violated, and that child feels guilty. I know how much I battled with guilt. I know how much I battled with shame. I know how much I tried to cover who I was because I didn't want people to really get to know me, because I felt if people know or knew who I was, somehow they would not want to be friends with me because I perceive myself as dirty, the untouchable and all of that. So there are a lot of these layers and all of that. But it's important that we understand that children cannot give consent. It also matters the circumstance, the situation, what it is she wore, and all of that. I know that's conversation. If you want to open the floor, a lot of people will have questions, but I don't have time to go into all of that. But children cannot give consent. The law expects that even if a child comes up naked, which is not excusable, but if the child comes up naked and say, uncle, so touch me, uncle, the law expects that because you are an adult, that you take responsibility and tell that child to go close up, and not say that the reason why I raped her or the reason why I raped that child is because of the way she was dressing. Now, sexual abuse is agonizing, is traumatic, and as Ms. Guana has told us, it can last a lifetime. Now, Sexual abuse can involve physical contact. That is where the abuser makes contact with the child through rape, through incest, that is sexual activity within family members, touching of private parts, even when the child is fully clothed. So we should not say, okay, if the child is still wearing clothes and the child's breast or the buttocks and all of that is studied, is not, even while the dress is on, that child is being violated. Use of body parts, fingers, and all of that or objects in the private part of the child, or making the child touch others, whether it's an adult, or children. It's also important that we understand that, as we have been told, that sexual abuse happens with boys and it happens with girls. Please, it doesn't happen with girls alone. We have handled and treated and held therapy for boys who have been sexually abused. Sexual abuse also involves non-physical contact. When a child is shown pornography, when a child, is through pornography, the child is not touched, but sexual activity has gone on. Showing the child pornography, or when the child is asked to undress and pictures are taken of that child, when a child is encouraged to watch or to listen to sexual activity, or a child, we've had situations where probably, somebody's taking their bath and then others are peeping toms. All of these are all forms of sexual violence. When an attempt of sexual violence takes place, but is not completed, that is also sexual violence. That is also sexual abuse. We also have tech facilitated forms, that happens over the internet, over phones and all of that. And we'll take time one of these months to focus solely on tech facilitated sexual violence against children. Now, so that's the first thing. So the first thing is, first you understand this is what it is, where children are touched in their private and made to touch others in their private, are spoken to or are exposed with sexual content, involved in sexual activity. It is prevalent. It happens to both boys and girls, and it can happen even through the internet. The second thing that we need to do to prevent this from happening and protect our children is to understand how abusers groom targets. Now, listen to me, people. Most times, a child will not allow a total stranger that they do not know to sexually abuse them. Have you thought of that? So when we talk about don't talk to strangers, when somebody meets you on the road, you don't know the person, don't talk to them. That can happen when we are talking about Boko Haram, when we are talking about robbers, and but when it comes to sexual violence, that place in scripture that talks about how the enemies of a man are in his own house. That's exactly what sexual violence is. It is sexual activity that takes place mostly by people who know the child and who have access to that child. So understand how then all children are vulnerable, but perpetrators are smart. They will not target every child. But these are some of the things that they will do. They will look for children who are most vulnerable, children that are from homes where they are neglected, children that are probably suffering or dealing with or have a disability, children that are having trust issues, children that are timid, children that they realize are not given the attention from home. They target children that have some form of deficit, in relating with others, or from the home front, children from dysfunctional homes, children where they are seen, they are not heard. So they target this. We also realize that perpetrators will usually want to hang around children, and as they're hanging around children, they are looking for some of these signs and looking for the most vulnerable. Now, when they now see a child that meets with all of what that I have said, or at least one of them, they now begin to build, and it doesn't take much. You and I know it doesn't take much to build a relationship with a child. You have one sweet, I don't know how much, maybe 50 naira, tom or something is enough. Telling a child, sorry, mommy beats you is enough. Being, making the child laugh, showing the child something, being available, So that's what they do to gain the trust of that child. Mommy beats the child because the child is naughty. Mommy disciplines the child, or daddy disciplines the child, as the case may be. And that uncle or that auntie is waiting by the side to say, okay, sorry, don't mind mommy, don't worry, uncle is here, auntie is here, you can take care. All of that are what they are doing, or what they can do to build trust. Now, from building that trust and building relationship, they now begin to to feel a need. They see the need for validation, need for support, and they begin to feel it. Oh, you're looking beautiful. Oh, this dress is nice. Okay, sorry, our mommy is not around. I'll be there. Oh, you need somebody to help you with your homework. I will. And these are now not that these are all normal things. They're all natural and they are all okay. But remember, what makes it wrong is the end goal. What is that person aiming at? What are they aiming to achieve? Now, once they've done that, they now begin to introduce secrets. And if that child is not equipped to understand the difference between secrets and surprises, the perpetrator can now get a hook or a latch on that child. Then they sexualize the relationship by beginning to touch. Now, because a relationship has been established, trust has been established, perpetrator is available, perpetrator is there, perpetrator has access. The child now allows that person to begin to touch until the person now actually sleeps with that child, and then they now maintain control. I love you. This is what uncles and aunties who love their nieces and all that do. If you tell anybody, they will not understand. They will get angry with you. So don't tell. So they begin to maintain a control, and you see the whole cycle go on again. Now, also understand that the same way that perpetrators groom children is the same way they groom adults as well. They groom the parents because you need to trust them that they can take care of your child. You need to trust that they are there. When you need to run a quick errand, you need to trust that they are available to take care of your child, that you can hand that child over. When they are spending time with that child, they need to know that you can trust. So they also groom parents, groom adults in the life of these children to allow them spend time with that child. So you need to understand that. And so what does that mean? It means that we need to be attentive. We need to let children know that not every uncle and auntie that is around them is a good uncle and auntie. As respectful as we are here in Africa, in Nigeria, some of these, everybody is an uncle, everybody is an auntie, could work against that child if that child does not have extra information that some uncles and aunties are bad. They are not everything uncle or auntie does to you that is acceptable. You can report an uncle or auntie if they do anything that is not right, that makes you feel uncomfortable. It's okay. You are not a bad child if you do that. So the third strategy is to talk about it. Now, there's a lot of culture of silence. There's a situation of a girl who came home to the parents, and little girl, I think she was around 5, 6, and all of that. Probably she listened in on an adult conversation and came in from school. The driver had just brought her home, and I say, daddy was in the house and all of that. I say, daddy, what is sex? And you can imagine the young man or the old man, as the case may be, almost as if let him wonder. And he was, just go and meet your mother, go and meet your mother, go and meet your mother. And the guy, what have I done? Why is that the only question I'm asking? She too strutted off to the kitchen, wherever mothers, I said, mommy. And daddy said, she asked, what is sex? And she overreacted and all of that. And it was as a result of that this girl ended up being abused by the driver, who brought her in and saw the play and the situation in the house. And the information that they refused to give this girl, she provided that opportunity for her to be abused. So it's important for children, start early, seize moments. When you see situations, That will have been a teachable moment for the parents to first of all find out, where did you hear that word? What do you think it means? How they were they using it in the conversation? And then give age appropriate information. If that child is old enough to ask, then they are old enough to understand based on their age and their knowledge capacity. Talk to children and let them know the difference between secrets and surprises. Understand why children are afraid to tell so that they are not blamed when they do not tell. They are afraid of being judged. They are afraid of being punished. They are afraid it was their fault. They are afraid they will be blamed. They are afraid they will be shamed. There are a lot of things that go through the head of a child. I never told my parents, and I was abused for 8 years at home. My mother never worked, and yet this happened under her nose, and she never knew until 2000, and I had gotten married, had children before I started, the organization. And I felt, okay, so I think it's a good time I should tell mommy what happened. My father had long died at that time, so you can imagine how many years I kept it from. So children may never tell you. So that's why it's important that you're also available. You're also approachable so that when those things happen, they can actually, come to you and talk to you about it. Number four is minimize opportunities so that you reduce the risk. Remember, I mentioned, that most of the abuse that happens with people that know our children, happen with people who are close, who our children trust, who have access, talking about family members, talking about relatives, talking about family friends, talking about school teachers, talking about people that have access, people that are around us that have access that you can readily drop your children with. Those are the ones that can sexually abuse our children. And so it is key that we minimize the opportunity by as much as possible, reducing one adult, one child situations. You are not saying you are isolating your children from talking to adults. No, that will make us paranoid as parents. What I am saying is that situations where your child has to stay with one adult alone, unsupervised, should not happen as much as possible. Schools should create policies. Homes should create policies. What are the things that that can happen or cannot happen where your child is concerned? When you see something, you say something. Monitor their media. Right now, if I like a whole conversation for another day, pornography is rife. A lot of stalkers are online. 40, 50-year-old people disguising themselves as 10, 15, 18-year-old hunk of men and all of that, but they're actually abusers. So monitor what it is that they do, monitor their activity online, and then take responsibility, be alert. Remember what I said initially, if you don't know what is normal, how will you know when it becomes abnormal? And lastly, act on suspicion. So we have our helpline here. One of the things that SWA Initiative can help you do is better to be safer than sorry. If there's anything, if you recognize that there is somebody that is around your child or there's an adult who is always, always around children. Okay, there was one slide I did not focus on. Yes, how abusers groom children. So the fourth point there, I said these abusers. How do you recognize them? They do not respect personal boundaries. Always in the spaces of children, always wanting to hug even when the child does not want to hug. Always in their face. They are always seeking time alone with the children, always wanting to get away with them, always allowing them get away with wrong, sharing secrets with them and all that. They're having sexual conversations around the children, sexual conversations, sexual behavior around the children. our number is here. You call us to ask questions. Speak with us. Hello, can we hear me? Sorry, I call came in.
It's very good. We can hear you now.
Stop. Can I have a thumbs up if you can hear me?
Welcome back, ma'am. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I think that's it. I just had a nick of time. So thank you so much. As I said, I'm really passionate about this. I can just
Yeah.
it's good to hear with comfort over.
Yes. Thank you very much, ma'am. I was beginning to be a bit worried because my ED can be very passionate, and if you allow her, she can go on and on. And she's my boss, so I was thinking of how best to manage the situation without, you know, losing my job. But it's always fantastic to hear from you, Ma. And thank you for this wonderful and insightful session. So, yeah, the floor is open for questions. We'll be taking questions, and I can see that Labe's hand came up like almost immediately. And so, over to you very quickly, Labe. Okay, I'm seeing hands up. Yes, Labe, if you can hear me, over to you.
Hello. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, the organizers, the facilitators. Thank you so much for this wonderful section. It's very impactful. My first question goes to the first facilitation. What kind of mechanism or strategy will someone put in place to track the online abuse? That's the first question I have. The second question is concerning relatives. I had an experience where I suspected a relative um, trying to abuse or molest a cousin, and I tried to approach it with carefulness. And when the father of the girl got to know about it, instead of him to take positive actions, he started fighting me back. I was asking me, why will I participate or engage in a family issue? It became a serious issue of threat. In that case, what should one do as well? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Labe Joshua. I am hoping that even for the rest of our, participants who want to ask a question, we can keep it brief. So the first question, Ma, what mechanisms can we put in place to track online abuse? Over to you, Ma'am Deborah.
Can you hear me now? It's like I'm muted.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, we can hear you now.
Honestly, these days is very difficult to control online use for children. In those days, when we are under the control of our parents, the media is not as popular as today. They were able to control us. But these days, you find out that even when you're controlling your child at home, he can get to school and still have access to a phone that he can use online. But one thing that I tell parents is bringing up your child in discipline and letting the child know good and bad. When a child carries your phone, don't just collect the phone from the child. Try to see what the child is doing with the phone so that you, the parent, can correct the child and teach the child how to avoid those abuses. Because some of the children, if you don't show them how to manage social media, some other peer group can misguide them or mislead them. So the best thing is to teach your child how to use phone without getting into some of these sites that can teach the child so many things. You can sit with the child and show the child the differences between bad and good and how to disengage when something is popping up and how to use it wisely. And above all, make your child to trust you, in that if there's anything the child sees that is so engaging, the child can quickly report back to you. It's easier that way than to ban phone or the use of social media entirely in your home, because even if the child did not use it at home, you can use it elsewhere. So it's better for you to teach the child the best way and the healthy way to use those online or social media. You sit with the child. Most importantly, godliness is there. Teach the child how to be godly. Teach the child how to manage social media. Teach the child how to trust you as parent, to tell you when something is going off. Once the child is able to engage you that, daddy, mommy, this morning I did this and this is what I saw, you'll be able to guide the child well. And you'll be able to handle it at the point of conception. So if you really open up to your child and be free with the child can trust you. And when something is about to happen, the child will tell you and you'll be able to handle it. I cannot say you should ban social media at home, because even outside, the child can have access to social media. But please teach the child how to manage social media at every stage of life.
Okay.
Then the
Thank
second
you very
one.
much. Yeah, the second question, how to intervene and support even when a relation does not want to take action. How do you help a child that is being abused?
Yes. There are times that you report back to parents. There are times that you report to authorities. Child abuse is not just, and I know Chinyere can help us with this because she's a specialist in child abuse. It's not just a domestic offense. Child abuse is a national offense. When a child is being abused, it's not just a parental issue. If we have a very good structure in our government, they take it up, because the offense is not just for the family. So if you notice that a child is being abused and you don't want to get involved, you can report to some organizations that are into such things. Some of these organizations, they have a way of tracking the abuser without even you showing up. It is when you have parents who are ready to accept responsibility and help the child, then you report to the parent. Where the parents are not willing to get involved, then there are organizations that can take it up and help that child. I know of a family that the children were taken away from the family because the children, two girls, constantly being abused by the father. And the mother refused to speak because she wanted to protect her marriage. And when we get to know, we reported to an organization. That organization, without involving us, they arrested the parent and took custody of the children. So you can, I know at the end of these discussions or teaching, you will have numbers that you can reach out to in case you have any abuse anywhere. So you can take such numbers, or even to SWA initiative, you can report to them. They will know the right organization that can handle such cases. So you don't have to stick to the parents, you can report elsewhere. But be very careful on how you go about it. Because some of these abusers, they can be so manipulative, and they may have connection that you will not be able to get them to admit the offense. I know Chinyere will say more about that.
Thank you very much, Mom. I don't know if you are still on the call and you can hear us, Ma. Chinyere, if you want to add something, Ma. It seems like your network is breaking. Okay, so while we're trying to figure out or make up for the network,
sorry, I don't know if my attention was needed.
Yes. I wanted you to add to a question.
Okay, sorry, my network.
Okay, he asked a question about him reporting something he saw, all of that. So I was saying that
I heard,
your friends. Okay, I wanted you to add to that.
I think you answered really well. If it is a case that you are sure that this child is being abused, you saw, because unfortunately our law enforcement system is not, it's not where it should. It's on the way to the promised land. It's not where exactly it should be. So if it's something that is not about suspicion, maybe the child reported, this is happening, then you can go straight to the authorities and report. A situation where you're suspecting and you call the attention of the parents, it is really unfortunate that the father reacted the way that he did. But I must really commend you that you were observant enough to have noticed what was going on with that child. And I'm glad that you still spoke up. So whatever the case may be, in a way you would have served notice to the abuser or the alleged abuser, that somebody is watching, somebody, is taking note. Probably what you could do to follow up is to, if you still have access to the child, is to confirm, confirm if it is ongoing, and then if you can go straight to the police to report. Another thing you could do is you could call, because we don't have all the details, you could call this number that is presently showing here now and have a conversation with our survival support officer, and we get to know the details, and then we can advise more appropriately. But one thing we should not do is to keep quiet and just, after all, it's not my own child, because what goes around comes around. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mars, for your contribution. We have another hand up, and very quickly and very straight to the point so that we can wrap this up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Chinyere, wonderful conversation. I'm so impressed because I know you personally. I know your commitment. I know your capacity. So when I just saw it, somebody called me a while ago and said, "Why are you not picking my call? You are rejecting my call." I said, "This person doesn't know." And I'm shared with many people to be able to connect.
Thank you.
Two questions that I want to ask. I'm asking myself too.
As the
coordinator. Oh my God. You know, you're a specialist now. So, my dear, two questions I like to ask, because you mentioned trauma as well as culture of silence. It's such a terrible situation.
Yeah.
What can we do? I know that there is diminishing resources to us in our sector. But this thing you are doing now, I'm not sure you have any funding. I didn't look at this thing well. to see if you have funding support from anywhere. But you've been consistent. What can we do to encourage people to be able to break this culture of silence on one side? And the second side is that how do we encourage more people to be enlightened? I say so because growing up, I didn't know until I became VAP coordinator. I didn't know I was abused as a child, a little girl, by my own in-law. And everything all of you said is wonderful. My sister was very furious. She was not so educated, but we're in Kano. Because she just went to market and this man knows her itinerary. He crept into the house and came to lie me down in the parlor. I wouldn't know. I was so small. I was less than 10 years. So what would I know? I just know that I saw somebody big and was pressing me down. My sister came like fire. She was so upset. I think she banned him from coming to our house. So how do we collectively, whether donor money is available or not, to be able to do this on the trauma? How do we have been campaigning, especially since the killing of my son, that trauma support should be responsibility of government at different levels, that are the 3 levels, as well as individuals who have the capacity to do it, because it's costly and people will not be able to access emotional trauma therapy. What can we do? Because we are gathered here to share our knowledge. If we cannot respond now, let's see what we can do. Those are my concerns. Culture of silence, how we can break it, and how we can share the cost of emotional trauma therapy, because it's affecting me and people don't want to tell their story. I still tell people today, I don't like sex. Even in marriage, I have problems before my husband died. Because of that abuse and the early child marriage they contracted for me. So it's important for people. When I tell my story, people say, don't be saying it is shameful. How is it shameful now? So it's so important to, if not, we'll not be able, because it's increasing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Auntie Enne. Can we give you a round of applause? You don't know the person who just spoke. That was the very first Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act coordinator in NAPTIP. And she has been such a wonderful support to us. Auntie Enne, thank you so much. My sister Deborah will be here to speak about the trauma, but on the culture of silence. Yeah, thank you, everyone. On the culture of silence, really, it's about continuing to speak up, continuing to talk about it. Yes, this is not funded, but we felt this is our little quota that we can do. Every month we are committing to saying something, doing something, taking on another aspect of child protection and talking about, even though our core is on sexual violence. So how do we break the culture of silence? We break the culture of silence by continuing to talk about it. We should refuse to be silenced. We should refuse to shame children and adults that are abused. We should ask the right questions when people are raped, when people are abused. Learn to ask the right questions and hold the perpetrators accountable, and not those who have already been traumatized by the act. It's about law enforcement rising up and doing what it is that they were employed to do. It's about you and I being our brothers' keepers and standing up for the underdog. It's about us refusing to be quiet, just continue to talk, continue to stand up for that person, that girl who is in the university and is being exploited, harassed by her lecturer. We join her and we talk about it. That child that is being abused and the parents want to cover it up, we say, no, it cannot be business as usual. It is when we get back to that place where we are concerned about our neighbor's child, we are concerned about the next person. I know how it is presently with all of the security issues and how we are becoming more individualistic than communal. But let's not forget our heritage, where it takes a community, to bring up a child. So thank you, Ma, for lending a voice to it. And yes, we'll continue to speak. Yes, we'll continue to talk about, and it's support from persons and dignitaries like yourself, that we feel encouraged that we are making some form of impact. Thank you so much. Deborah, please, can you probably say something around trauma that Auntie Ene mentioned? How can people access? I know Halita Cares initiative, for instance, that's what they do. And if you have any issues around trauma, please, ma, let me connect. This is my sister. She's on fire. She has the passion. She's trained. So it's not just she's not just speaking from passion. I am passionate and called. No, she has the train. In fact, she's overqualified. For the position. She handles as a trauma counselor. I don't know if she's still here. If she can say one or two things. But yes, thank you, Auntie Ene, and over. Comfort.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, ma'am, for the question. So if there's no other question, I saw that Mrs. Edosa had put up her hand earlier, but I can't see the hand anymore. I don't know if she put it down because questions are already going on. But yeah, as people who participated in this conversation, yes, we have conversations over and over. I'm quite sure that some of us, this is not the first time we've had this conversation. We've been a part of this kind of conversation. So I'd like for us to make commitments in the comment section. Just share something, an action that you're going to take going forward about what we've heard. What action would you take to protect a child from child sexual abuse? I'd like to see our comments in the section while we try to wrap this up very quickly. If I see a couple of comments, I'm going to read them out because I love to do those kind of things just to motivate other people and also to share what we are doing. So before we proceed, I'd just like us to put on our videos very briefly so that we can take a virtual photograph. Ma, you can please stop sharing your screen so that we can have more people on the call. Yes, fantastic. I'd like to just see us, if you can, put on your video for us so that we can, yes, thank you very much, Dayo. You will continue to speak up against all forms of child sexual abuse. Yes, please, I'd like to see more commitments. It would make a lot of sense. And not just commitment because we are asking us to make commitments, but because this is what we are committing to do, to actually do. Taking action. We are taking action. It's part of the, creating the change we want. Okay, so yeah, we are taking the pictures already. Yeah. They all look so amazing. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all. Okay. So thank you, every one of you, for being a part of this Knowledge Cafe. It's been, we are 3 minutes past our closing time. This was indeed a very dear to heart session. And so permit us, not like any of our sessions are not dear to heart, but this is very close to heart, close to the vision and mission of our organization. And it went a bit, so just bear with us. We usually close our sessions by 5:30 latest, like 1 hour, 30 minutes max. But yeah, just a few important announcements. We would share a feedback survey. Please, would love to hear your input. What do you think we can do better? Are there sessions you'd like to hear from us as well going forward, in succeeding meetings? You can suggest that to us. Is there something you want us to do better? What did you get from this session? What's your takeaway? We would love to hear all of that. And we would also love for you to follow us on our social media platforms. We are on Facebook, we are on LinkedIn, we are on X, on Instagram. There is a feedback form that will be shared, and our social media handles would also be attached to that mail. Please look forward to it, and we look forward to following to all of you following us. Like our ED already mentioned in the course of our presentation, we have our SOA Child and Teen Support Center that is available for survival support services. Please reach out if you or someone you know needs help. We are available to support that cause and to make it happen. Our next Knowledge Cafe, like has also been hinted in the course of this session, is on understanding and healing the trauma of child sexual abuse. So we've had the conversation around trauma, we've had the conversation around child sexual abuse, like the background, the foundation. So going forward, how do we prevent this? How do we heal? How do people who have experienced child sexual abuse, how can they heal from this experience? What's the pathway to recovery? What do we do going forward? Even as parents, as civil society organizations, as teachers, or just people who are, custodians of children and how do we understand and heal from this trauma? So as we bring today's session to a close, we sincerely thank all of our speakers. Thank you very much, Ma'am Deborah. Thank you very much, Ma'am Chinyere. We are super grateful for your expertise, for sharing your expertise and your insights. And to all of our participants, honestly, there would be no us without you people. This Knowledge Cafe will not just happen without you people. We would basically just be bouncing up ideas. And so we are grateful for your time and your engagement, all of the contributions, all of the questions. Thank you all very much. And yes, let's continue to be advocates for the protection and well-being of children in our communities, wherever we find ourselves. And so, have a wonderful evening, and I look forward to seeing you at our next Knowledge Cafe. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate it. I'm clapping. I'm the moderator, you can hear me, so I'm clapping.
Bye,
thank
everyone. Thank you. See you next month.
Bye, Ma. Thank you, Ma.